welcome to the Football Philosophy channel, and this is the Player in Focus show from the West Ham game at Old Trafford in the FA Cup. It's not a live show, this, it goes up recorded, so we haven't got the draw yet. I'd love to have had the draw by now, but we haven't. It happens in a couple of hours time, so find out a little bit later on. No doubt we'll probably get City or maybe Chelsea if they get through. I wouldn't be surprised. But this is the Player in Focus show from that cup tie, and the Player in Focus is Marcus Rashford. There was over 2,000 votes. I think about 2,400 votes, which there often is. There's nearly always over 2,000 votes on it. And rather unusually, I don't know what's happened with Twitter today, but obviously it's on Rick the Red UK to vote in the poll that I do. And when I put the poll up, there's always 4 players in it. In fact, Marcus was in it, Anthony Marshall was in it, Fred and Mason Green was, and then the person who comes out on top in the poll, for those who are watching for the first time, is then the subject of the Player in Focus. But when they do that poll, they highlight in blue the winner of the poll. And when it was finished today, it's the first time I've seen something like this. Well, first of all, it's never really very close. Whichever 4 players are normally put up, normally someone's got 40 to 50% of the votes and wins it hands down usually. So normally it's not even close. This is easily the closest one yet. Marcus Rashford commanded 33% of the votes and Anthony Marshall 32% of the votes. So obviously Marcus was the winner, but somehow or other, Twitter, and I really can't understand how this has happened, they've highlighted in blue Anthony Marshall. So at first glance, it looks like Martial is the winner of the poll, but Marcus Rashford's got 33% and Anthony's got 32%. So the subject of Player in Focus is Marcus Rashford. I can only assume that the numbers are correct and that the blue line is out of place rather than the other way around. I suppose I could be wrong, but I've taken the 33 that beats the 32. So it's Marcus Rashford. So I've got 15 clips here that I'm going to put up on Twitter, on Rick the Red UK on Twitter. The way I do it on Twitter, I usually do it so that I do them one after the other before tweeting them, and I tweet all at once. And I don't know how this works, but they're sort of coming out higgledy-piggledy and a bit jumbled up. So what I'm going to do is, I've got 15, I'm going to do 3 threads. I'm going to put 5 on each thread. But just to save any confusion, rather than putting number 1 on thread 2 or number 1 on thread 1, I'm just going to number them all from 1 to 15, even though it will be 3 threads. I'll probably do thread A, thread B, thread C, but then the numbers will just run all the way through. Number 1 to 15 it will be for the 15 different clips. Of these 15 clips, probably about half of them are pretty poor or really poor, and you might think you're being a little bit harsh. I'll speak about them as I go along. You might be being a little bit harsh on some of them. I don't think I am. I really don't. And I did Marcus as the Player in Focus after the Arsenal game, and I said similar after that. On the Arsenal game, I didn't do it on a poll. I just chose him myself because I thought he was really poor. And I said then, and I'll say again now, although probably half of them, maybe a little bit more than half, are particularly poor, the ones that maybe aren't quite so bad, and you might think maybe he's a little bit unlucky, when things are not going well for you and you're doing 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe even 9 things in a game that are really poor, you can't afford to have the unlucky things go against you as well. I mean, there are others that I could put on. I haven't chosen every single moment where I think he could have done a little bit better. These are just like the poor ones, and 1 or 2 other ones that I think he should definitely do better. So the very first one, clip number 1. Is just a long crossfield pass that goes straight to the full-back, doesn't really even get off the ground. It's a particularly poor crossfield pass, and as I always say, I'm a stickler for decision making in football, and he's got Fred slightly to his right. It's a dead simple pass. Don't be concerned about the fact that it's slightly sideways and slightly backwards. Give it to Fred and move. You might get it back. You have to go backwards sometimes to go forwards. So some people might say, oh, he's trying something there. Don't try something if it's going to go horrendously wrong like that. and just give it simple and get the ball moving and get the team moving. So it's a poor decision and it's a poor execution. And anybody who's watched regularly before will know that that's something that I can't abide by. You've got to get one thing or the other right. If you try the right thing and it doesn't come off, that's more or less acceptable. If you try the wrong thing and it doesn't come off, that's a double-edged sword, if you like. You've done two things wrong in one moment. Clip number 2, you'll see Tellez play a ball down the line to him, and it's a fairly gentle pass. And if you watch Tellez, if you watch it a couple of times, you'll see Tellez play it down the line and make a dart inside. So Tellez, you can clearly see, is playing that ball as gently as he thinks. Sometimes when you pass the ball to a teammate, you pass it in such a manner that the teammate should understand what's going on. And what Marcus does, he lets the ball run past his body. I think he does this far too often. He lets it run past his body. There's a defender behind him and then goes to chase it. And the defender beats him far too easily. But you can see that Tellez, with the weight that he's put on the ball, and also, or the lack of weight that he's put on the ball, and also with his sudden dart in field once he's passed it, that Tellez is playing it to Marcus, for Marcus to take it under and play it back in. But Marcus has let it run across his body and chase it down the line, and the fullback beats him far too easily. And again, this, you might think it's not decision making this, but it is decision making. Marcus decides to let that ball run past him. He could easily take a touch. I'm not saying it's easy to turn around and give it back to Tellez, but he needs to take a touch more often, and he just lets it run past his body and loses it too easily. This is another a loose touch. Anthony Martial gives it to Martial receives it on the left wing and he immediately turns, and Marcus is only 10 yards away, and he passes it to Marcus. This is one where you will think I'm being harsh, I'm sure of it, but his touch is too loose. There is a man behind him, he knows it's tight. You must get your body there, or if you're going to take a touch away from your body, you must be aware and get it away from the defender. But his touch, instead of it killing it in front of him and having his body between him and the defender, it just goes, and it's a dead simple, it's a dead gentle pass. Martial gives it into his feet, but it just goes a couple of feet to his right, and the defender flies in because he seizes his moment, and Marcus actually gets hurt and ends up in a crumple. Doesn't get hurt badly, but he's in a crumpled heap for a few seconds on the floor. And it's down to him not controlling the ball properly or not being aware of the situation. The man behind him, he should know that it's tight. Get it under control and get your body in between the man and the ball. Clip number 4, he has a shot from... I always say don't ever shoot unless you're in the box, obviously, or in that first dart. They're 6 yards long, them shades of grass, the dark shade and the light shade of grass. I always say don't shoot unless you're in that, certainly into that dark green shade, which is the first shade of grass outside the box. Marcus has a shot here while he's in the light green shade. And not only is he in the light green shade, but he's only just in it. He's far too far out. So this is more about decision making. He hits it well. Defender doesn't have any problem blocking it on the edge of the box. And although it's travelling with a bit of pace, it's too far out. If the defender lets that go or doesn't block it, I don't think it'll trouble the keeper. I really don't. And that's just on there for decision making. You might think, again, that's harsh. How often do you score from that distance? As a team, we might score from that distance once in a season, maybe twice. You need to get your decision making better. Be patient, pass the ball, let's build up the attack, let's try and get a shot in from much nearer in. As I say, you'll probably see us score once in a season from that distance, if at all. And another thing about that as well, I'm pretty sure maybe from a free kick he might have scored from that distance. But in open play, I'll be surprised if you remind me in the comments, and I'll have a look for it. I'll be very surprised if Marcus has ever scored in open play from that distance. So you need to improve your decision making there and not be shooting from so far out. Clip number 5, he runs into trouble on the edge of the box. Tellez is in oceans of space to his left. I think it's really poor. Tellez is in oceans of space to the left. He should just give it to Tellez. He's got a man running alongside him. Fans who get excited by players dribbling the ball, in their memory, they might think that he's running past players, but it isn't really the case. Obviously, he's quite quick. There are players trying to catch him and trying to run alongside him, but watch it carefully. The first man that he actually tries to take on is the man who takes it off him. He doesn't beat anybody. Okay, he's got a guy running by his right. He's got another guy trying to come over from the left, but he's already starting level with them. He hasn't beaten those players, and the very first man he comes to basically just sticks a foot out and takes it off him like candy off a baby. To be honest, I find it quite comical the way he does it. Have a look at it and see if you agree. He just sticks his foot out and Marcus goes up, either goes past him or goes over. I think it's Noble who takes it off him. But all the time that Marcus is running with it, Tellez is free to the left, and he should just give it to Tellez. Clip number 6, Tellez takes a throw in down near the corner flag, and it comes to Marcus. He tries to lay it off first time to Matic, and he doesn't get it right, and it goes straight to one of their players. Again, when somebody takes a throw in to you, either give it back or take a touch. If you're going to try a volley pass from it, you need to get it right. I'll just reiterate what I said from the start. You might again think that one of these things is hard. That one might be a harsh one. I don't think it's harsh, first of all. But secondly, if it is harsh, there's too many things going wrong. The simple little things that you've got to get right. If you're going to get most of them right, you can accept the odd one being wrong. But there's too many little things that just go wrong. And this is showing, by the way, I didn't even mention this at the start of the show, that I gave him a 4 out of 10. The Evening News gave him a 5, and I reduced it to a 4. I just said he had a poor game. To me, there's too many poor things to say anything different from that. I wouldn't say that he had a decent game at all. I thought he was pretty poor. So clip number 7. Lovely piece of play, the ball into Anthony Martial's feet, holds it up well, turns well, gives it to Marcus, and then runs into the box. So when Martial runs into the box, Rashford's got the ball on the left, and he's looking at Martial. And again, maybe watch it a couple of times. Watch Martial's piece of play. It's superb, and then his run into the box is between the defenders. He finds a lot of space. I would say this about any player. Everybody who watches a lot will know that I rate Martial highly, and I do feel sorry for him. But I'd say that about a different player if it was the other way around. If you think about at the weekend, Marcus put a ball onto Cavani's head. It was an absolute peach of a cross, and Cavani made a sharp run forward and then checked back, and the ball came over him, and he got a free header from about 6 yards. Obviously, in this situation, it's different. Martial can't get a free header from 6 yards. The move starts from far too far outside the box. But it is Martial who gets it going. It's really good playing. He gives it to Rashford. He runs between two men, so he needs the same quality of delivery. So it's not always the striker's fault that it doesn't work. So the ball comes in from Marcus, and have a look at it. It's way above Martial's head. He's got no chance of getting onto it. It goes straight through to the keeper, and the keeper catches it easily. On another day, maybe Marcus overhits the cross to Cavani. When you're a striker, you do need it to be perfect. It's no good if it's a yard too high or 2 feet too low. And it's just the way it goes for some people. So a player at the weekend is getting lauded for scoring a goal. He couldn't have scored that goal if the cross wasn't perfect. And now here's another player getting criticised for not having good movement, who's made a fantastic run there, and the ball is absolutely nowhere near the quality that's expected really of a Manchester United player. It's I'd say fair enough if it was, you can't expect it to be perfect all the time, but if it's a couple of feet out of his reach, I'd say, well, unlucky, fair enough. Spotted his run, trying to find him. He does spot the run, does try to find him, but the cross is just literally, 4 or 5 yards too high. Clip number 8, he runs into trouble again. On this one, the camera angle doesn't make it easy. You see him receive the ball and start running, then the camera angle changes to ground level. So it's a bit difficult to sort of tell how poor it is. I think it's particularly poor, I really do. Gets the ball, he runs in field, runs into trouble, ends up in a heat, appeals for a free kick. But you can see, even though it's a lower camera angle, you can see Telles run past him in a split second, because he goes past the camera in a second, if you like. But then when it changes up again, you see Telles running back. So again, Marcus is running field, and you do see that from the higher level, and he's taking all the players with him. Telles is running down a wing. I think Telles might give up making these runs. I think if Marcus keeps doing the way he keeps running into trouble and Telles is free, you should just give it to Telles. He runs into trouble, loses it, appeals for a free kick, doesn't get one. Clip number 9. Again, it's similar. Telles again available out on the left. He's got a couple of players running after him. Marcus, again, he runs into a crowd of players and just loses it just inside the box. Despite the fact that it's a crowd of players, and I'll say this again, if you really watch it closely, it is the first person who tries to take it off him who actually tries to take it off him. I'm sure a lot of fans get excited, look at him running with the ball, he's skillful, he can do this, he can do that. Doesn't actually beat anybody. All right, he's got a man chasing him, but he doesn't actually beat anybody. The first person he actually comes to takes the ball off him. And Telles is free to the left all the time, and he loses the ball in the box. One day it will come off for him, but at the same time, if Marcus is going to run 40 times into a crowd of players and lose it, and then maybe on the 41st time he's going to run past them all and score, or even pass it to someone who scores. If he just passes it to Telles, I'm talking about 40 occasions when there's a pass on, because sometimes there isn't a pass on, but 3 or 4 times in this game there's a pass on. So if on those 40 occasions that he does that when there's a pass on, I believe if he'd have passed it all 40 times, we'd have scored 1 in 10 from the crosses that go into the box. Or even if it's 1 in 20, it's better than 1 in 40, isn't it? So I'm sure you're better off just giving that ball and getting yourself in the box rather than running into trouble. Clip number 10 is the chance that he had. I won't go in too heavily on this. He does scuff his shot. I've shown there's an angle from behind the goal and an angle from behind Marcus as well. It'd be a great finish if he scored it. I'm putting it up there just to show that he doesn't take it well. Sometimes when you scuff it, by the way, it helps. Keeper comes flying out, expecting you to hit it well, making himself as big as he can. Sometimes when you scuff it, it can bobble in, it can go under the keeper, or if he's at your feet, it can bobble over the keeper. So sometimes scuffing it helps, but scuffing your shot is always an accident. So it doesn't mean that it was well played or anything. It's just an accident if you scuff your shot. So this is an accident. He scuffs his shot. It happens to hit the keeper. If he'd have caught it well, it might well have been saved. The keeper's only 2 yards away. So I'm not saying he should have scored, but without a doubt, it is an accident the way he hits it, and he should hit it a little bit better, if not a lot better. That was clip number 10. This is clip number 11. He's got the ball on the left wing. He looks up into the penalty area. He sees, I think it's Martial again running in. This is him again trying to make a movement in the box where he can get one of those where it's going to curl in. So he's going to try and get a flicks header on it and maybe flick it into the far post or whatever. But again, the cross is far too high. He's got no chance of getting it. The keeper catches it I think he's more or less under his crossbar, and you could even argue, was it more of a shot? It's not a shot. It's too curly and it's too soft. But you could argue that the keeper's got to keep his eye on it. If he takes his eye off it, it could end up in the net. But it's just a poor cross, and it goes straight to the keeper. Clip number 12. Telles plays a ball down the line, and it's off the ground, but it's not headable height. It's like thigh height or knee height when it comes to Marcus. And you can see, I think you can see, he decides to either A, bring it down, in which case he fails, or B, he might even be trying to turn with it back inside, but it's just so poor. It's difficult to really tell what he tries. He does get his foot to it. He does try to do something, but if if what happens is what he actually tries to do, it's a poor decision. He flicks it on, or it touches it, and it carries on down the line, and he chases it, but the player who's behind him is just too quick for him. Well, he's got a yard or two on him to start with. It's no good flicking a ball past someone when the person's got 2 yards on you or whatever. He's going to beat you to the ball. So he gets beaten to the ball, and he turns away and passes it away. He gets beaten far too easy, and the ball from Telles is a perfectly adequate ball. And again, if you watch Telles, he starts to bomb forward as soon as he's played it. I think he's hoping that Marcus is going to bring the ball down, and then he can get involved in the play. But you know, I don't know what really Marcus tries there, but it's really poor. He needs to improve. And Ollie said this 12 months ago, that we're working on him, we're playing with his back to goal, and his back to goal. I'm not joking. His play with his back to goal. And you can see 3 or 4 instances just in these clips. His play with his back to goal is really poor. He's got to start getting the ball under control, and then worry about what you're going to do next. Not think about where it's going to go, what's going to happen when you flick it or when you turn and let it run. I've shown one where he turned and let it run. There's this one where he sort of touches it on and chases it. And there's a couple of others, and I think there's one still to come as well. He's got to do better with his back to goal. Here's another, I think, clip number 13, similar again. Yeah, similar again it is. This time the ball's a bit higher. It's played up to him, but it's played up to him in a manner you can tell the way the players play the ball to you. I think this is one of the centre-backs who play. It might be Lindelof who clicks it. It's a floated, clipped ball into him. It's not driven for him to turn and chase it, and it's there for you to receive the ball on your body and hold your man off, and then get people up and join in the play. And as the ball's coming, Marcus, while the ball's still in the air, he turns. The ball hasn't got the weight. It's not got the speed on it. He doesn't seem to grasp it. It hasn't got the speed on it for him to turn and chase it. So what's he expecting to happen? He starts to turn while the ball's coming in the air, and the defender who's marking him just steps in front of him and gets the ball. And it just isn't good enough. It's poor. And you know, it's one where people might go, oh, that's not harsh. I promise you, it isn't harsh. He's got to get hold of that ball, get it down on the floor, and then let the players get up the field. This is clip number 14. One to go after this. This is one where this is one definitely where I would say that's hard. If a lot of other things are going for you, you know, if you're having a decent game, I'd say there's no harm in trying that. But he receives the ball. Have a look at it as it starts. He receives the ball, and he's got 7 or 8 yards between him and the fullback, and he tries to beat that fullback, but he just runs into him. It's just not a good attempt at trying to beat the fullback. I don't mind if somebody out wide trying to beat the fullback and get across him. I really don't. But it's a poor attempt at trying to beat the fullback. It just seems to run into him, and the ball bounces up in the air a little bit, and then when it bounces up in the air, he chases it, and then somebody else comes across and muscles him out of it, and it's bounced off him, and it goes for a goal kick. So it's not particularly good. Like I say, I would let him off with that if a lot of other things were going his way, but there's too much going wrong, and he needs them things to go right. He just runs into the fullback, and it's not good. And another one about back to goal, and I've seen him do this, and I put a similar one up against Arsenal. One against Arsenal, he flicked it on, and I showed that I put on there that I didn't think that he knew where that ball was going. I think he just flicked it, and it was an accident that Cavani happened to come off his man and beat the man to it, and it looked good, but I thought it was an accident. And then in this instance, the ball comes to him on the touchline. I believe he should take it under control, I really do, and he just flicks it on. Reminds me of I can't remember which ex-Notts Forest player I saw a clip from an after dinner speaking engagement that he did. This player, can't remember who it was, the player now, but he spoke about Brian Clough signing a player for decent money, a striker. And in the first game that he played, the ball came up to him and he flicked it on, and Brian Clough substituted him in the first half. I won't try and do Brian Clough's accent. I love his accent, and I love the comedians and the entertainers that can speak like Brian Clough. What a manager he was. But apparently Brian Clough took him off in the first half and said, "We don't flick balls here, son. Get the ball under control. We do not flick balls here, and I believe we're doing that too much. And when I say we, really, it's Marcus most of the time. So he flicks this ball on. I don't believe he knows where it's going. I think he just. I really can't explain why he flicks. I don't know what he's thinking. He flicks it on. It goes in the air. Cavani's offside. Obviously, Marcus doesn't know Cavani's offside, but I don't believe he really knows what's there anyway. He just flicks it on and turns and hopes for something to happen. And Cavani's offside, and they get a free kick that they wouldn't have got, and it wouldn't give them. If he takes that ball under control, like Martial does a lot, there's a defender behind him. If he takes that ball under control, maybe we get a free kick. He flicks it on. Cavani's offside. He doesn't know Cavani's offside, but I don't believe I'm not really sure that he even knows Cavani's there, and they get a free kick. So there's 15 clips. I'll put them up tonight on Rick the Red UK on Twitter. Like I say, I'll do 3 separate threads, and hopefully they'll all run concurrently then, and I will number them through the threads 1 to 5, 6 to 10, and 11 to 15 on thread A, thread B, and thread C. So that's that. I did choose Marcus out of 4. I did Marcus against Arsenal because I thought he was pretty poor against Arsenal. Then I thought he was pretty poor again the other day. But this wasn't my choice on this occasion. He was voted. As I say, Twitter seemed to have mixed up, but they might have changed it by now. I don't know if they do change it once it's set. It might be set in stone now. I don't know. I did take a screenshot of it, by the way. So it's got 33% Marcus, 32% Martial, even though the blue highlight is through Martial's name. So yeah, it just happens to have been Marcus again, and yet again, for me, I thought Marcus played pretty poorly. So it is West Brom in the league this weekend. It's a Sunday the game, isn't it? So I'll be back tomorrow. I'll do a preview of all the weekend's football tomorrow, and obviously look mainly at United's game, see if there's any further injury problems, see if there's any clues as to who might get a game. I think it's going to be a lot closer to. I think it'd be easier to predict his lineup for this weekend's game than it was for the West Ham game. So I'll have a go at that. So I'll be back tomorrow with a weekend preview. That's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed that show. If you've enjoyed that show, please tell all your friends. Please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anybody. Keep stum.